Why can't you be present, and what does trauma have to do with it? This question strikes at the heart of one of our most fundamental human struggles. According to the groundbreaking work of trauma expert Gabor Maté, our inability to stay present isn't a personal failing or a sign of weakness. It's often a direct result of unresolved trauma living in our nervous system. When we understand this connection, everything begins to make sense. Why meditation feels impossible, why our minds race constantly, and why simply being still can feel like torture. Presence, in its truest form, means being fully here right now without the need to escape, distract, or defend ourselves. It's the state where we can feel our feet on the ground, notice our breath, and experience whatever emotions arise without immediately needing to fix, change, or run from them. But for many of us, this seemingly simple state feels entirely out of reach. We live in a constant state of doing, thinking, planning, worrying, or numbing ourselves through various means. Scrolling our phones, binge-watching shows, working excessively, or engaging in other behaviors that keep us from truly being with ourselves. The reason we struggle with presence often traces back to our earliest experiences of safety and attachment. Gabor Maté's work reveals that trauma isn't just about dramatic, obvious events. It's about any experience where we felt overwhelmed, alone, or unsafe, especially during our formative years. When a child experiences stress without adequate support, their developing nervous system learns that the present moment isn't safe. The body remembers this lesson long after the conscious mind has forgotten the original events, creating an internal alarm system that constantly scans for danger and keeps us from settling into the here and now. This hypervigilant state served a crucial purpose once. It helped us survive difficult circumstances by staying alert and ready to respond to threats. However, when this survival mechanism becomes our default way of being, it creates what trauma specialists call a dysregulated nervous system. In this state, our body is constantly flooded with stress hormones. Our mind races with anxious thoughts, and our emotional responses feel overwhelming or completely shut down. Being present becomes not just difficult, but actually feels dangerous to our system, even when we're objectively safe. The paradox of trauma is that while it was designed to protect us, it often ends up imprisoning us in patterns that no longer serve our well-being. When we can't be present, we miss out on the richness of life happening right now. We become disconnected from our own emotions, from the people we love, and from the simple joys that exist in ordinary moments. We live in our heads rather than in our bodies, thinking about the past or worrying about the future, while life passes by unnoticed. Understanding this connection between trauma and presence isn't about blame or dwelling on past hurts. It's about recognizing that our struggles with being present make perfect sense, given what our nervous system has been through. This awareness alone can be incredibly healing because it shifts us from self-judgment to self-compassion. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" we can ask, "What happened to me?" And more importantly, "How can I help my nervous system feel safe enough to be present?" The journey back to presence begins with creating safety in our bodies and minds. This isn't about positive thinking or forcing ourselves to feel different. It's about gentle, consistent practices that signal to our nervous system that it's okay to let down our guard. Simple techniques like conscious breathing, gentle movement, spending time in nature, or engaging in creative activities can help regulate our nervous system and create windows of presence, even if they're small at first. One of the most powerful insights from Gabor Maté's work is that healing happens in relationship, both with ourselves and with others. When we've experienced trauma, especially relational trauma, part of our healing involves learning to trust again, to feel seen and accepted without judgment. This might happen in therapy, in close friendships, in support groups, or through practices like mindfulness where we learn to be with ourselves with kindness rather than criticism. The process of reclaiming presence is rarely linear or quick. Our nervous system has been protecting us for years, perhaps decades, and it needs time to learn new patterns. There will be days when presence feels impossible, when anxiety or numbness takes over, when old patterns resurface with surprising intensity. This isn't failure, it's part of the healing process. Each time we notice we've left the present moment and gently guide ourselves back, We're rewiring our brain and nervous system toward greater regulation and peace. What makes this work particularly challenging is that trauma often tells us we don't deserve peace, presence, or happiness. The wounded parts of ourselves might resist healing because chaos and hypervigilance feel familiar, even if they're painful. Learning to be present requires us to face whatever we've been running from, old emotions, painful memories, or simply the vulnerability of being truly alive and feeling everything that comes with it. But here's something beautiful to consider. Your nervous system wants to heal. Despite everything it's been through, despite all the protection mechanisms it's developed, there's an innate wisdom in your body that remembers what safety and presence feel like. When we create the right conditions, safety, support, patience, and compassion, our natural capacity for presence begins to emerge like a flower that's been waiting for the right season to bloom. Have you ever noticed how difficult it can be to simply sit with yourself without any distractions? Have you found yourself constantly reaching for your phone, turning on music, or finding something to do rather than just being still? These aren't signs of laziness or lack of discipline. They're often indicators that your nervous system doesn't feel safe in stillness. When we understand this, we can approach our restlessness with curiosity rather than judgment, asking what our system might need to feel more secure. I want to take a moment here to thank everyone who clicked on this video and is taking time out of their day to explore these ideas with me. The fact that you're here, learning about trauma and presence, shows incredible courage and self-awareness. Healing isn't always easy work, but it's some of the most important work we can do, not just for ourselves, but for everyone whose lives we touch. The relationship between trauma and presence also shows up in how we handle emotions. When we can't be present, we often struggle to stay with difficult feelings as they arise. Instead, we might immediately try to fix them, avoid them, or become overwhelmed by them. Presence gives us the capacity to feel our emotions fully while also maintaining some perspective, to be in the storm while also being the sky that contains it. This emotional regulation is one of the greatest gifts of developing our capacity for presence. Another way trauma disrupts presence is through what psychologists call dissociation, a disconnection from our body, emotions, or immediate experience. While dissociation can be a helpful survival mechanism during overwhelming situations, when it becomes habitual, it keeps us from fully inhabiting our lives. We might feel like we're watching our life from the outside, going through the motions without really feeling engaged or alive. Healing involves gradually learning to come back into our bodies and our experience, one breath at a time. The good news is that our brains remain plastic throughout our lives, meaning we can develop new neural pathways that support presence and regulation. Every time we practice staying present with kindness toward ourselves, we're literally rewiring our brain. Every moment of mindful awareness, every pause before reacting, every gentle return to the breath is contributing to our healing and growth. One of the most practical ways to begin developing presence is through what Gabor Maté calls compassionate curiosity toward our own experience. Instead of judging ourselves for being anxious, distracted, or numb, we can become interested in what's happening. What does anxiety feel like in your body? What thoughts arise when you try to be still? What emotions surface when you're not busy? This curious, non-judgmental attention is itself a form of presence that can gradually expand into other areas of life. It's important to understand that healing trauma and developing presence isn't about never feeling difficult emotions or never having your mind wander. It's about developing the capacity to be with whatever arises without being completely overwhelmed by it or needing to immediately escape from it. It's about finding moments of peace within the storm, glimpses of stillness within the chaos of modern life. The practice of presence also connects us more deeply to our values and what truly matters to us. When we're constantly running from the present moment, we often make decisions based on fear, old patterns, or external expectations rather than from our authentic self. Presence gives us access to our inner wisdom and helps us respond to life from a place of clarity rather than reactivity. If I could get you to hit the like button on this video the same way trauma gets you to leave the present moment, automatically without thinking as a protective mechanism, well, that would actually be pretty concerning. But in all seriousness, if this exploration of trauma and presence is resonating with you, a like really does help this content reach others who might need to hear these ideas. It's amazing how something as simple as presence can be so revolutionary in a world that profits from our distraction and disconnection. The journey toward presence is also a journey toward authenticity. When we're not present, we often live according to who we think we should be rather than who we actually are. We perform roles, meet expectations, and suppress parts of ourselves that don't seem acceptable. Presence allows us to drop these masks and defenses, to show up as we truly are, which is both terrifying and liberating for someone who has learned that being authentic isn't safe. Community and connection play crucial roles in healing trauma and developing presence. While the work of healing is ultimately personal, it doesn't have to be done in isolation. Finding others who understand trauma, who practice presence, or who are on similar healing journeys can provide the safety and support our nervous system needs to continue growing. Sometimes just knowing we're not alone in our struggles can create enough safety for presence to emerge. The ripple effects of developing presence extend far beyond our personal well-being. When we're present, we show up differently in our relationships. We listen more deeply, respond more thoughtfully, and connect more authentically. Our children, partners, friends, and colleagues all benefit when we're able to be truly present with them rather than distracted by our internal storms or external pressures. One of the most profound aspects of this work is learning that presence isn't something we have to earn or achieve. It's our natural state that trauma has temporarily obscured. We don't need to become someone different or fix everything that's wrong with us. We simply need to create conditions that allow our innate capacity for presence to resurface. This perspective shifts the entire healing journey from one of striving and effort to one of allowing and receiving. As we near the end of our exploration today, it's worth reflecting on how this understanding might change your relationship with your own struggles with presence. Perhaps you can begin to see your restlessness, anxiety, or need for constant distraction not as personal failings, but as intelligent adaptations to difficult circumstances. Perhaps you can offer yourself the same compassion you would give to a friend who was struggling, recognizing that your nervous system has been doing its best to protect you. The path forward isn't about perfection or never struggling again. It's about gradually expanding your capacity to be present, even with difficulty. It's about learning to surf the waves of emotion rather than being crushed by them. It's about finding moments of peace and presence throughout your day, even if they're brief. Each moment of presence is a victory. Each return to the breath after being lost in thought is progress. Each act of self-compassion is healing. Remember that healing trauma and developing presence is not a destination but an ongoing journey. There will be setbacks, challenges, and days when presence feels impossible. This is normal and expected. What matters is your willingness to continue showing up for yourself with patience and kindness, to keep creating safety in your life, and to gradually expand your capacity to be here, now, in this moment, exactly as you are. The beautiful truth is that presence is always available to us, even in the midst of chaos. It's in the feeling of your feet on the ground, in the rhythm of your breath, in the warmth of sunlight on your skin. It's in the space between thoughts, in the pause before you react, in the moment when you remember that you're here, alive, and worthy of peace. As you continue on your journey, may you find these moments of presence becoming more frequent and lasting, creating a foundation of inner peace that no external circumstance can shake. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of trauma and presence. If this resonated with you, I'd love for you to give this video a like. It truly helps this content reach others who might benefit from these insights. And if you feel called to share your own experiences or thoughts about presence and healing, please leave a comment below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. If you're interested in continuing this journey of understanding trauma and healing, check out the next video that's appearing on your screen, and consider subscribing to Not What It Seems if you'd like to explore more of these important topics together. Take care of yourself out there.